And it's an honor to welcome our very special guest, His Holiness Radhanath Swami. To try and introduce such an exalted personality is very difficult. I will try. His Holiness is a world-renowned spiritualist and a renunciate monk. His Holiness comes from a suburb in Chicago, from a very humble and simple family. But since his childhood, he was in the quest and search for the eternal truth. And at the age of 19, he came to London. And from London, it took him 6 months to hitchhike to India. And he had most amazing experiences while looking for the eternal truth. All of that he has recorded in his autobiography. If somebody wants to have a look at the audio program. He reached India, then he went to Himalayas. He was with a lot of yogis and going through his research till he met his spiritual master, his Srila Prabhupada, where his quest then sort of ended for the eternal truth. Anyone and everyone who comes in contact with His Holiness just gets moved, very influenced, very touched. Whether he's speaking at the Apple headquarters or the Harvard University, or he's speaking at the Ford Auto Company, or here last year at the House of Parliament, which they said that for the last 70 years they've not heard a talk like that, or speaking in front of the 900 bankers at the HSBC last year, getting 3 standing ovations, or Cambridge Union, or Oxford Union, or Harvard. Everyone seems to just get so influenced and so touched by him. But at his heart, he's a very, very simple person. He lives a very simple life. And last year he was mentioning at the HSBC that he hasn't signed a check since 1969. So that's how simple life he lives. He oversees a very large orphanage in Mumbai, and also a program for midday school meal, and it feeds 250,000 school kids every day. And that's sort of the magnanimity of that program. But for us, for our interest, he oversees a hospital in Bombay, which has got the state-of-art departments and elective hospital. But what it also has, interestingly, is a department of spiritual care. And that brings us to the topic for today, that we are living in very difficult times. We are faced with the challenge of pulling us apart when we are trying to perform our duty, our work. And mind you, we have a very special profession. We just don't provide our skills, mechanical skills, to take care of our clients or our patients, but we have our duty, which is much larger than that, which is the care, the compassion. And I'm so grateful to His Holiness that he has taken time to come out and speak to us about how we can go forward in that direction, to be a caring, a compassionate person, a loving person to our patients, of course providing a good clinical care. So please join me in welcoming His Holiness Radhanath Swami.
Yantimidandasya Jnananjanachalakaya chakshuru militam jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I'm very grateful to be with all of you today. Special gratitude to our esteemed Executive Director, Jan, Dr. Agarwal, and to all of you for taking your precious time to be with us today. Being in the medical profession gives a person the means to significantly affect another human life. And with that comes great responsibility. I don't have much of a medical background except I get sick a lot. But I don't feel qualified to speak so much about your situation here. But I would like to share some of my own reflections, experiences about our hospital in Mumbai. In Mira Road, which is a suburb of the city of Mumbai, we established this hospital. It's called Bhaktivedanta Hospital. It's named after my beloved spiritual teacher or guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, who inspired us in a spirit of compassion. Compassion without discrimination. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that we are all related as brothers and sisters. And we can understand that relationship when we understand our own connection with the divine or with God within our hearts. That the living force that's animating the body is a sacred part of God. And to love God, naturally, we will honor and respect the sacredness of life, wherever life may appear. Whether one is male or female, Asian, Australian, South American, North American, European, whether one is of one religion or another religion or no religion. And the Bhagavad Gita extends it whether one is a human or an elephant or a cow or a dog or a cat. Recently I was taking a walk in Regent's Park here in London. And it was early morning, and practically everybody that I was that walked by me was walking a dog. Dozens and dozens of people, and all different colors and shapes of dogs. And how they were taking care of those dogs. And some of them, this is something you don't see much in India where I live. You know, when the dog would perform its natural activities, very highly aristocratic looking ladies and gentlemen would put on a rubber glove and clean up after it. And I could see that they did it with affection. They wouldn't do it unless they really had affection for that dog. You know, that's quite menial service. They're not getting paid for it. Because the life within that little animal, they have a relationship with. And therefore, there's affection. There's a sharing of affection. And as I was seeing this happening, you know, one after another, I was thinking how it's not just a matter of who we may have a relationship with that deserves our care. But there's life. The greatness, the quality, and the fulfillment of our own lives is to the extent that we can extend compassion to someone who needs it. So when we were establishing this hospital in Mumbai, we tried to take this spirit of our teacher, Srila Prabhupada, that the greatest contribution to human society is to be instruments of compassion. And the greatest fulfillment to the human heart is to exercise this propensity that is actually within all of us. Sometimes we're so distracted that we forget the real needs of our own heart. This world today, we are constantly being bombarded with these weapons of mass distraction. And it causes us to become so selfish, so self-centered, so egoistic. And we think we have something to gain by becoming like this. And you get something. But what we get is something so cheap, so insignificant, compared to the real wealth, the real treasure of what we are forgetting. How to love, how to be compassionate, how to care. That's where real humanity lies. Humanity is not in the types of rocket ships we create, the types of bombs, the types of technology, how small you can put a telephone, how many stations are on our television. The real basis of humanity, culture, is how we honor and respect other people's lives and how we care. And from a spiritual perspective, the foundation of that is how much we actually understand our true self and our relationship with God, who has many names in different religions. We call Krishna, which means the all-attractive, all-beautiful. But that same God has appeared in many ways, in many times, and has given the same message. We can fight about the details, about the language and the ritual and different philosophical precepts, but the essence is to actually help us to reconnect with our true eternal spiritual self, to find love and express that love in the form of compassion. And true compassion does not discriminate over these external differences that we may have with each other. So when we started this hospital in Muir Road, our idea was how to give the most holistic care to the body, the mind, and the conscious living force of the soul. This, from a spiritual perspective, is holistic health. From the physical perspective, a tremendous amount of care to strive for excellence in everybody, whether they are the housekeepers or the nurses or the administrators or the consultants, the doctors, the surgeons, the maintenance people, everyone. We have our profession, and we should strive individually and collectively for excellence. One of the biggest challenges in India is cleanliness, sanitation. Because somehow or other, a lot of people have been distracted from that. And to actually, really, really emphasize and train all of the employees and all of the administrators, everybody in this culture of cleanliness, spotlessness. teacher used to say that cleanliness is not next to godliness. Cleanliness is godliness. Because it's an expression that we really care. And for each person in whatever particular field they're in, to really, really be conscious to strive for excellence with proficiency, efficiency, and great sincerity. And also unity. It's a big challenge sometimes when there's competitiveness between different personalities or different sectors. Who suffers from that? It's usually the patients. And ultimately, our own hearts. So to create that cooperative spirit where each person individually and collectively is striving for excellence, to ensure the best possible physical service to the patients. And then there's the emotional side, which is very important and oftentimes neglected. And it can really cause people to suffer. I've been in hospitals. I'm 62 years old and I've gone through so many different phases of life. And when you're really in a suffering condition, laying in a hospital bed, and you don't know what's happening, and it seems like it's not going right, and you don't know why, and your mind is kind of tormented by it. It could be a horrible, suffering condition if nobody's there to really feel that they care about you. They may be doing all the professional duties they have to perform as far as the tests, this and that, but unless there's real communication, can suffer miserably. And that's so often what happens. Just recently, a very well-known person from America, who was previously an athletic star, champion in his field, he was visiting us, and he was having a problem. This was interesting. He had it checked 26 times in different European and American and Australian hospitals. And they told him it was one thing. And somehow it wasn't being cured, and they said it couldn't be cured. So we have an Ayurvedic branch at Bhaktivedanta Hospital. And he went to the Ayurvedic doctor. And the nature of our hospital is all the doctors come together. We have an Ayurvedic branch, a homeopathic branch, all the major allopathic branches. They all come together and how can we best help this person? And they discovered that his problem was nothing what anybody else had said. That he was having severe heart blockage. So we brought him to one of the top heart specialists in Mumbai, and he said, "You have 4 arteries totally blocked. You can die at any moment." And what he was told was problems with his lungs due to a puncture in the past. He was having minor heart attacks for 10 years, and everyone was saying it's because of that injury. No, we don't do open heart surgeries at our hospital at this time. We're not equipped for that with the technology. So we went to a very large major hospital to do it. And he told me, far worse than the suffering, the physical suffering of the surgery for him was the emotional suffering of feeling neglected in the hospital. And this is a very, very well-known hospital. I'm not going to mention names. Because the nurses just, they just do what they're supposed to do and go. The doctors just come and do what they're supposed to do and go. And he was having problems and they weren't listening. He was having confusions and they weren't addressing them. He felt hopeless. Emotional care, through a culture of care. It not only does it uplift people mentally, but it's very, very helpful in curing people physically. If we give them hope, if we give them confidence, and that comes by giving them kindness, giving them some time. So we believe that that is as important as the physical care, as the emotional care. So much of the suffering today is mental. I just saw a newspaper article where, as far as how do they label it? A certain category of deaths, I think injury, suicide in America has gone beyond automobile accidents. This is not including diseases, this is like interest kind of deaths. People feel hopeless. The World Health Organization has warned that in the 21st century, mental disease and depression is going to be one of the top 5 causes of suffering and death in the world, as far as disease. So holistic health is we're actually trying to give people quality of life. So along with the physical excellence, to create a culture that actually uplifts people. Where even if their physical health isn't working so well, you can make them feel good about it. Other times it's working well and we make them feel miserable about it. It's unnecessary. And I'm sure, wherever it may be, it's never deliberate. It's due to just neglect or not having time or not being conscious, aware of the need for that emotional care for a person's health. And we also have a spiritual care department, which is quite unique in our hospital, where we have trained nurses and other volunteers who go to the beds of the patients, and especially also for the relatives of the patients. Because we have 150 beds, we have, I believe, 2 ICU wards, we have 3 surgical operation theaters. There's people who come and they're really confused and they're really suffering. We have a hospice also there. And we have Hindus. About half of the people that come to the hospitals are Muslims, Christians, Jews, Sikhs, Jains, agnostics, atheists, Parsis. The spiritual care is presenting universal spiritual principles that actually help people on many levels according to their how receptive and eager their heart is. To try to see their life and their disease and their hopeful recovery as part of a whole picture, a broader scene. And this spiritual care department has become so popular that many, many people choose Bhaktivedanta Hospital because of this. And they're not necessarily people of our own spiritual faith, but they feel it's just such a deep experience that they gain. Christians, Muslims, Jews, Sikhs, Hindus. In fact, I'll give one little example, that there were some Orthodox Muslims who their father or grandfather was dying of a disease. And the family was always there around them. And the spiritual care department was coming and just trying to read their scripture to them and inspire them and encourage them. And when the person was in the last phases of dying, the people said, come and perform your way of helping him into the other world. We said, well, we can do it your way. They said, no. We have been to so many different hospitals. Nobody cared about our grandfather and us like this. Now, in a country where there's so much communal conflict between two religions, for there to be such an opening, that was a serious healing. So much trust, so much faith, so much hope in each other. Because, beyond the philosophical apparent differences, there was genuine care. There was genuine concern. Oftentimes we're called to emergency situations. When that tsunami hit in South India, we had many people there. When there was an earthquake in Latur in Maharashtra, our hospital went there in Gujarat and Bhuj. 12,000 people died there. And so many hundreds and thousands were injured or lost their children, their parents, their homes. And we had our orthopedic surgeons, fixing people's broken bones. We had our other doctors doing so many things. But what the patients appreciated most was the spiritual care. Because, beyond their broken bones, some of them, they had, dislocated shoulders and broken arms. But their mother and their two brothers were dead. And their home was destroyed. They needed hope. They needed an understanding of a deeper, of really who they are. The bigger picture. And through this kind of spiritual care, we found it not only opens people's hearts to find peace and to find happiness even in difficult situations, but really helps people heal. Because, as you all know much better than me, the psychological condition of a person very much affects our physiological state. There's so many diseases today, heart disease, cancer, which can be connected to depression, stress, anxiety. selflessness. So this has been our goal, and we have a long way to go, and we make many mistakes. But you know, if we're really trying our best and doing it with the highest possible integrity, then even if something's beyond our control, we can feel good that we sacrificed our utmost to try to help. If there's anything that is desperately needed in the world today, on every level, in every profession, it is genuine compassion. Whether it's on Wall Street, whether it's in the British Parliament, or the Indian Parliament, or the American Congress, the White House, whether it is in the temples and religious institutions, or in the hospitals. It's the greatest need. Because where there's genuine care and genuine compassion, naturally excellence will come. And it will be built on a very strong foundation. So, we've been striving in our own way. I've been looking around this beautiful hospital, speaking with Jan. She's a person who really cares, and I was very impressed. She was a nurse studying nursing, and now she's in administration. So I think that's very nice that she really knows on the ground, because nurses kind of are right in the middle of everything. Doctors kind of come and go. Nurses have to deal with it. That's my experience. In my own position as a Swami, I'm kind of like a doctor myself, so I know what it's like. But I'm very honored to be here. And I share these ideas with you, with the hope that maybe some of these thoughts can be helpful in your own personal lives. Working as a solid team, really coordinated together and coordinated in care, in compassion, is one of the most powerful contributions a hospital can make to our patients, to humanity. This Atma, the Bhagavad Gita calls it the Atma, the eternal soul. We believe is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. It's beyond birth, it's beyond death. And this body is like the car, the automobile or in ancient times, the chariot, in which the Atma is moving it, seeing through the windshield of the eyes, speaking through the tongue, hearing through the ears, touching through the flesh, thinking through the brain. And this body is a very sacred machine because it can do the will of the Atma, or the soul, which is its ultimate function of the soul, its natural function, is to be an instrument of God's love. And I've seen throughout the world how so many hospitals have a spiritual basis. Recently, my father just had a surgery at St. Luke's Hospital in Chicago. And so many hospitals are named after saints, because this, in whatever religion it may be, it has been the basis of hospitals throughout times. And the idea is not a sectarian thing, but when there's a spiritual connection in our heart, when there's a connection of love of God, we want to be instruments of compassion. And whether it's with a spiritual base like that or a secular hospital, it's that spirit of compassion that's so important. To give that holistic service to really improve the quality of a person's life. And in giving, we receive. This is what I express to all of the members at all levels of our hospital in Mumbai, that actual humanity, actual spirituality in this sense, is when you go deep enough into your own values, where you find far greater satisfaction in giving your compassion to someone and helping them than you do in the money that you make or the prestige that you gain. Obviously, professionals need money, and prestige could be helpful. So that's fine. That's the way we have to live in this world. But that should not really be what gives us the satisfaction of the heart. How much money we're making from doing this is how much we've actually made a difference in a person's life by being an instrument of God or Krishna's compassion in what we've done. And that's where the real inner fulfillment will be. And when we connect with that, we can be instruments to give that inner fulfillment to so many others. Thank you very much. There is that famous saying, physician, heal thyself. I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking to everyone. That in the Bible there's a beautiful verse where Jesus says that build your house on a foundation of rock, that it will not be blown down by any storm. But if you build your house on the foundation of shifting sand, then the storms will make it crumble. However beautiful and ornate, it could have gold pillars, it could have magnificent crystal chandeliers, it could have artwork from the Renaissance masters. But if there's not a strong foundation, the storm will make it fall. So it's important that individually and collectively we work on our foundational values. And also our foundational spiritual experience. Otherwise, we compromise our values to due to temptations or fears, or just because I can get so much if I just rush through this and this and that and this. It's amazing, I travel a lot, the amount of malpractices that I hear about in top-class hospitals throughout the world is inconceivable to me. And it's almost always because of rushing or just having too many things to do and not tending to some little thing. So yes, there's so many distractions, but to actually develop this deep compassion, from my perspective as a Swami, a spiritual leader, I'm not speaking on a sectarian basis, it is important that we cultivate our own spirituality. We cultivate our own connection with our own hearts, with our own souls, with God. Lord Chaitanya, he gave us very beautiful little prayer. E nechi ashadi maya nashi barolagi harinama mahamantra lautuni magi. It means, I have a medicine for all of you. It's the medicine that can actually bring us back to our natural healthy state internally. Cleanse us of the disease of greed and arrogance and illusion and selfishness. And that's the name of God. When we chant this name of God, this beautiful mantra, it actually helps us to clean away the layers and layers and layers of this arrogance and greed and selfish passions and envy, which kind of hardens the heart and doesn't allow us to really let the light of our own souls, of our own consciousness, shine for the welfare of others. Shine with compassion. So I think it's important that we have to take time in whatever ways each of us may be doing to actually develop that inner purity, that inner goodness, that inner stability, that inner peace, and ultimately that inner love. And then through our medical career, or through our cleaning, or through our technology, or through our speaking, whatever we may be doing, we're actually expressing that inner compassion that is within our hearts. I think that's very crucial in today's world. Does that answer your question? You had a question?
Yeah, at this modern time, there's a lot of cases like getting sued and patient taking action against the healthcare profession. And that itself, I think my voice is loud now. and that I've put from the time I've been doing my nursing to now. I noticed the gap is getting more. You start to be frightened to show the care, too much care because of all this legal action that's being taken. As what Guru have just said, that the care is the most important. As well, at this time, the paperwork is equally important. And to balance that too, I find it difficult. Because you're catching up with the paperwork and you don't have time to give the care. But as Guru said, both is equally important, and can you advise us on how to balance that?
I cannot tell you how to balance it, but I can request you to balance it. That balance is crucial. lives and the qualities of what we can actually do to help the quality of other lives. Balance is essential. It's unfortunate that legalistic concerns actually distract us from what we're supposed to be doing, but that's the way the world is today. But we shouldn't diminish our real purpose to take care of those things that are trying to protect us from fulfilling our real purpose. Does that make sense? The legal things are trying to protect our integrity so that we can fulfill our real purpose. But if in those legal things it takes us, it distracts us, it compromises the fulfillment of our real purpose, then there's something really wrong. In today's world, there's such a storm of passion toward quantity. It so often compromises quality. And it's the quality of our own life and how we affect other people's lives that brings about real fulfillment. It's not quantity. It's never quantity. It's always quality. But still, quantity is required in so many situations. So there has to be that balance. And as they say, where there's a will, there's a way. So if we understand the importance of making this balance, then we'll attend to it. And God helps those who help themselves. If we really see, and I've seen in my life, if we really give a priority to something, we can do it. And nothing great, nothing even good, comes without a challenge. Thank you. Is there any other? Yes, sir.
As Sir Radha was saying, we live in modern times, and the UK is one of the most advanced countries in the world in providing healthcare. People come here from the Middle East or from America to get their healthcare. And I think, I have to say, I think you were right when you were mentioning spiritual care, because we lack that. I think from my observation, I've been working in this country for 10 years, and I think we tend to neglect, we look after our patients' fractures and illnesses. Sometimes we neglect their needs for spiritual care, and as you said, God manifests in many different ways to different people. And I think as nurses and medical professionals, I think giving a minute or two in addressing the spiritual care of the patients is very essential. And I think this is one thing that we need to do, especially in our hospital. We want to be leader, not only in giving excellent care to our patients, but we want to ensure that we can give this spiritual care that we lack, I think. And that is very fascinating. And I hope, I was thinking, the spiritual care that we give, the patient might have a terminal illness, but deep in your heart, when you finally reach the end of your life, you'll be more fulfilled, I think, in a way, because you had something to cling on as your hope that there is something out there, which fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm grateful for your kind words. Thank you. It is true what you're saying. We started this spiritual care division of the hospital, and actually, the first couple of years, there's just so much necessities and pressures every other aspect. That the spiritual care was always kind of put in the background. Not only in the background, it practically disappeared. And every now and then, the doctors and the nurses and the administrators would come to me, and I'd say, how is the spiritual care department going? And they'd say, well, you know, we just don't have time for that. We have so many other things we have to do. So, well, from my perspective, you have to do this too. Where there's necessity, we figure out the way to do it. So we actually put the person who was director of the whole hospital specifically and exclusively in charge of spiritual care. This is what we did. I'm not saying it works anywhere else. And then we got a different director. And spiritual care really became strong. And it didn't diminish from any of the other activities. It enhanced all the other activities. And then the person who was director of the spiritual care went back to being director of the whole hospital, and we got somebody else who was properly trained by him to be in charge of the spiritual care. And, you know, through that, there has been several other hospitals in India who have actually adopted the same program. Some government hospitals, some private hospitals. And regularly our spiritual care department is invited to give seminars in other hospitals in India. And there's been several hospitals in the West also, in Europe and America, who are studying the concept. Because when spiritual care is offered, not in a sectarian way, but in a universal but very powerful and real way, really has had a tremendous effect. It makes a great difference. That's our experience. So thank you very much for your words. Is there any other questions? I'm so very honored Jan. I don't remember your last name, I'm sorry. Danielle. I'm being too informal with you. I'm so grateful to you that you gave me this opportunity. Open the doors of your heart and your wonderful institution here for me to share these thoughts with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, and we all enjoyed that today. Not everybody knew what to expect, but I think it's brought something to us, and we're very grateful. We've just had a round of applause, and I was going to propose a vote of thanks, so could you do it again?